After days of uncharacteristic public drama for the band, The Who have rehired drummer Zak Starkey, who was fired earlier this week after a 29-year tenure, in place of the late Keith Moon. Starkey is the son of Beatles star Ringo. In a post on The Who's website, guitarist Pete Townshend says, "Breaking news! Who brought Zak back? Zak was not asked to leave The Who. All parties had some communication issues, personal and private, that needed to be resolved, and they have been safely resolved. We are one family. This whole thing got blown out of proportion very quickly and got too much oxygen. It was all over." Join us for shocking details about the iconic band, The Who. The controversies surrounding Zak Starkey's firing from The Who came as a surprise to many, especially given his decades-long tenure as the band's drummer. Starkey, the son of Beatles drummer Ringo Starr, had been a crucial member of the band for nearly 30 years, stepping in to fill the enormous shoes of the legendary Keith Moon. His departure, however, was marked by a series of misunderstandings and public fallout that quickly escalated into a dramatic moment for both the band and its fans. The tension started during The Who's performance at London's Royal Albert Hall in March 2023. The show was a benefit for the Teenage Cancer Trust, an organization Roger Daltrey has supported for many years. The band had been performing "The Song Is Over" from their classic Who's Next album. But during the final song, Daltrey lost his place rhythmically. He admitted to the crowd that he couldn't hear the proper pitch, saying that all he could hear were the drums, and he couldn't sing to that. This hiccup in the performance led to an awkward pause, but the band eventually finished the song without further issues. Despite the show going on to a smooth conclusion, Starkey's frustrations bubbled over, leading him to post a cryptic message on Instagram. The post, which was later deleted, hinted that he was being fired from the band due to Daltrey's displeasure with the performance, accusing him of overplaying during the song. Starkey's message was laced with regret and an apology, saying he would pick up the beats next time, if given the chance. This post hinted at a rift between the drummer and the rest of the band, signaling a deeper issue than just a performance glitch. The following day, the band made an official announcement stating that they had decided, collectively, to part ways with Starkey after the show. This statement, while respectful, came as a shock to many who saw Starkey as an integral part of The Who for almost 3 decades. They praised his contributions to the band, but mentioned that they had made the decision for the band's future and moving forward with a different approach. Fans and the media were left confused by the quick turn of events. The decision to fire Starkey wasn't accompanied by much explanation, and the lack of details only fueled speculation. Was the issue truly just about the performance, or was there more to the story? Was it the result of personal differences, or perhaps the culmination of growing tensions within the band? Starkey, in his emotional response, reflected on his long tenure with the band, expressing both pride and sadness at the way things had played out. His hurt was evident as he discussed how he felt about his role in the band and the betrayal he felt after nearly 30 years of service. He also explained that he had recently suffered a serious medical issue with blood clots, which had affected his health, though he assured everyone it would not impact his drumming moving forward. This added layer of personal struggle only made the situation more complicated, as it painted a picture of a man dealing with both physical and emotional pain while still attempting to perform at the highest level. The firing of Zak Starkey was a significant moment for The Who, marking a rare public moment of discord in a career otherwise defined by musical legacy and camaraderie. It left fans wondering what had truly caused this rift, and how the band would move forward from the drama that had unfolded so publicly. After the public outcry and confusion following Zak Starkey's departure from The Who, the band's 2 remaining core members, Pete Townshend and Roger Daltrey, were forced to respond to the situation. Their explanation sought to shed light on what had happened behind the scenes, though it was clear that there was a mix of personal and professional tensions that had led to the unexpected turn of events. Pete Townshend, the band's iconic guitarist and principal songwriter, was the first to step up with a public statement regarding the fallout. In a message posted to The Who's official website, Townshend made it clear that the firing wasn't a decision made lightly. He emphasized that the band had a long history with Zak Starkey, and he acknowledged the drummer's immense contributions to their music. Townshend also addressed the public perception that this was a sudden decision, explaining that the issues with Starkey had been brewing for a while, though they had remained private until that moment. According to Townshend, the disagreement stemmed from the band's performance at the Royal Albert Hall, where the issues with Starkey's drumming had become apparent during the final song of the evening. He admitted that the sound mix had been problematic, especially with Daltrey struggling to hear the right pitch. Townshend noted that he, too, had faced physical challenges, including recovering from a knee replacement, which had affected his performance during the show. He explained that these technical and health difficulties had all contributed to the overall tension during the performance, which eventually led to the decision to part ways with Starkey. However, Townshend was quick to clarify that the firing of Zak Starkey was not an indictment of his skills or dedication. Instead, he described the decision as a necessary step for the future of the band. Acknowledging that they were all dealing with aging bodies and new challenges, the performance issues were seen as a sign that things weren't working as smoothly as they once had. And Townshend made it clear that the band's future would require a different approach to drumming, one that better fit the evolving sound of The Who. Townshend also expressed regret over how things had been handled, admitting that the situation had been mishandled in some respects. He took responsibility for not communicating more effectively with Starkey and for letting the issues between the band members escalate to such a public level. The drama surrounding the firing had drawn attention from fans and media alike, and Townshend was candid about the impact this had on both the band's reputation and their internal relationship. Roger Daltrey, the band's lead singer and longtime friend of Townshend, echoed many of the same sentiments in his own comments about the situation. While he didn't go into as much detail as Townshend, Daltrey acknowledged that the decision to part ways with Starkey was necessary for the band's future. He explained that, like Townshend, he had been dealing with his own physical challenges, and the dynamic within the band had to evolve to accommodate their changing needs. Daltrey also praised Starkey's contributions to The Who, expressing gratitude for the time they had spent together. However, he made it clear that they needed to move forward with a different approach to drumming, one that aligned better with the current state of the band. For both Townshend and Daltrey, the firing of Zak Starkey was a painful but necessary decision. They acknowledged the difficult reality of aging in a band that had been together for so long, and recognized that the band's music was evolving alongside their own personal challenges. The change in drummers wasn't something they wanted to do, but it was something they felt was required to maintain the integrity of the band's sound moving forward. One of the most significant aspects of their response was the emphasis on the personal nature of the situation. Townshend and Daltrey both spoke about how the band had always considered themselves a family, and this incident had hurt them deeply. The dynamics between the members had shifted over the years, and the way they handled the disagreement with Starkey only further complicated their relationship. While they were still committed to making music together, they acknowledged that there was work to be done in mending the rift and ensuring that they could continue to move forward as a band. Their decision to rehire Starkey shortly after the initial firing was an attempt to put an end to the drama and move forward in a more constructive way. Townshend and Daltrey both expressed their desire to resolve the issues and return to making music with the same passion that had defined their careers. The firing had been a mistake they both admitted, but it was one they were willing to correct for the sake of the band's future. The controversy surrounding Zak Starkey's firing revealed the complexities of life within a long-standing band. While the public may have seen it as a simple decision based on performance issues, it was clear that there were deeper, personal factors at play. Townshend and Daltrey's responses showed that, despite their differences and challenges, they still cared deeply for each other and for the legacy of The Who. Their openness in addressing the situation showed a level of self-awareness and responsibility that helped calm the storm, but it also highlighted the harsh realities of being in a band that had been through so much together. In the end, The Who's response was a combination of regret, reconciliation, and a renewed sense of purpose. The band had made mistakes, but they were committed to fixing them and moving forward with optimism. The fans, who had been worried about the future of the band, were reassured that The Who still had the fire to continue, albeit in a slightly different form. It was a difficult chapter for the band, but it was one they were determined to close, with hopes of returning to their musical roots and creating more iconic music together. Zak Starkey's statement about his firing from The Who was an emotional one, full of reflection and raw honesty. It wasn't just a public response to the shock of being let go from a band he had been a part of for almost 3 decades. It was a window into the personal toll that the entire situation had taken on him. As the son of Ringo Starr, one of the most famous drummers in rock history, Starkey had always lived in the shadow of his legendary father. But despite his famous lineage, Zak had carved out his own identity and sound, with The Who becoming an integral part of their music for nearly 30 years. The news of his firing was a painful blow for him, but it wasn't entirely unexpected. In his statement, Zak acknowledged the immense honor it had been to play with The Who. especially given his role in filling the shoes of Keith Moon, the band's original drummer, who passed away far too early. Filling those shoes was never going to be easy, but Zak had managed to do it with style, staying true to Moon's chaotic energy while still bringing his own voice and influence to the music. His playing, which was often lauded for its emotional depth and technical precision, became a cornerstone of the band's live shows and recordings. Zak was a pivotal figure, but his relationship with the band had always been complex. Over the years, there were personal and professional challenges that started to emerge. In his statement, Zak admitted that the recent situation regarding the Royal Albert Hall performance had caused some tension within the band, and he was devastated by the way it had unfolded. He revealed that he had been struggling with health issues in the months leading up to the performance, which made the demands of touring even more difficult. He also spoke candidly about his struggles with his own self-doubt. Despite the years of success, there were moments when he questioned his worth, especially when he felt that his performance wasn't being fully appreciated. The public nature of his firing only added to the emotional weight of the situation. When the news broke, it felt like a betrayal. Zak had given so much to the band and the fans, and to be let go so suddenly, without a chance for meaningful discussion or a clearer understanding of the reasons behind the decision, left him reeling. He admitted that it stung more than he had expected, and his reaction was a mixture of confusion and sadness. He had always considered The Who to be more than just a band. They were family. The abruptness of the situation, with no time to process it privately, made it feel like a betrayal from those he had once called his closest friends. In his statement, Zak didn't hold back on the emotional toll that the situation had taken. He made it clear that he had been blindsided by the decision, despite his own struggles with health and performance issues. He spoke about how the recent performance at the Royal Albert Hall, where the band had experienced some technical difficulties and miscommunications during the show, had been a turning point for him. He admitted that he had felt deeply disappointed by how things had turned out, particularly in regard to his relationship with Roger Daltrey, the band's lead singer. According to Zak, he had been told that his drumming had been too much during the performance, but he didn't understand what exactly that meant or why it had become such a big issue. Zak's statement also revealed how deeply personal the situation had become. Despite the public nature of his firing, Zak was keen to make it clear that he held no ill will toward his bandmates. He thanked the fans for their unwavering support over the years and reiterated his love for the band. However, the emotional weight of the situation couldn't be denied. He admitted that the experience of being let go had left him feeling isolated and hurt, and it was clear from his words that the sting of the situation would stay with him for some time. Zak also took the opportunity to speak about his health struggles, which had been a factor in the band's decision to part ways with him. He had been battling health issues for years, and in his statement, he opened up about the toll that those struggles had taken on his body and his mind. At one point, he had been dealing with blood clots in his right leg, which had caused him to miss some shows. While he reassured fans that he was fully recovered and that his health was no longer a concern, it was clear that the physical toll of performing with The Who had started to weigh heavily on him. He reflected on how difficult it had been to keep up with the rigorous demands of touring, especially in light of his health issues. Despite the pain and disappointment, Zak expressed his gratitude for his time with The Who and the impact that the band had on his life. He acknowledged that playing with such a legendary group had been the highlight of his career, and he felt privileged to have been able to share the stage with them for so long. His statement was a bittersweet farewell, and though it was filled with sadness, it was also filled with a sense of closure. He had given everything he could to the band, and now he was ready to move forward and take some time to focus on his own health and creative projects. Zak's statement about his firing wasn't just about the events that had unfolded with The Who. It was also about his own personal journey and growth. He expressed a desire to step away from the spotlight for a while, focusing on his health and spending time with his family. He talked about his upcoming solo work and the projects he was excited to explore in the future, especially his work with Mantra of the Cosmos, the band he had formed with former Oasis member Andy Bell. This was a chance for Zak to move forward on his own terms, without the baggage of past struggles weighing him down. The emotional toll of being fired from The Who was evident in Zak's words, but there was also a sense of resilience. Despite the hurt and disappointment, Zak was determined to continue making music and pursuing his passions. His statement was a testament to his dedication to his craft and his love for music. even in the face of personal and professional setbacks. As fans and fellow musicians took in his words, it was clear that Zak Starkey's journey was far from over, and while his time with The Who had come to an end, his musical story was still unfolding. In the wake of the public drama surrounding Zak Starkey's firing from The Who, a resolution emerged that surprised many but was ultimately a step toward healing for all involved. The emotional tensions, the miscommunications, and the personal struggles had created an atmosphere of uncertainty, but in the end, reconciliation would prevail. The band's decision to rehire Zak and move forward with renewed optimism reflected not only the complexities of their long-standing relationships, but also their shared love for the music they created together. The first indication of a shift in the situation came when Pete Townshend, the band's legendary guitarist, issued a public statement announcing that Zak would be returning to the band. The tension that had dominated the previous week's news cycle began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of clarity and resolution. Townshend acknowledged that there had been misunderstandings on all sides and that the public drama had been blown out of proportion. "It was a mistake," he admitted, "but now it's over. We move forward." His words were clear, and the tension that had built up between Zak, Roger Daltrey, and the rest of the band seemed to dissipate. The Who, as Townshend put it, were back on track and looking forward to their future together. At the heart of this reconciliation was a recognition of the value that Zak Starkey brought to The Who, both musically and personally. For nearly 3 decades, Zak had been the drummer who filled the massive shoes left by Keith Moon, bringing his own unique style and energy to the band's sound. Despite the issues that arose during the Royal Albert Hall performance, it was clear that Zak's contributions were too significant to disregard. His drumming had been the backbone of the band's sound for years, and his emotional connection to The Who was evident in every beat he played. His return wasn't just a professional decision, it was an emotional one as well. For Zak, the return to the band was not just about clearing up misunderstandings, it was about acknowledging the shared history and deep connection that had been formed over decades. In interviews, he spoke openly about the experience of being let go and the emotional toll it had taken on him. The hurt and confusion he had felt when he was told he was being replaced had been hard to bear, but he also admitted that over time, he had come to realize that the situation wasn't as dire as it had seemed. The personal tensions that had existed between him and his bandmates were not insurmountable, and the love for the music they had created together still ran deep. One of the key factors that led to this reconciliation was the honest communication between Zak, Roger, Pete, and the rest of the band. The decision to part ways with Zak had been influenced by a mix of factors, including the technical issues during the Royal Albert Hall performance, Zak's health concerns, and personal differences. But, as time passed, the realization set in that these issues were not worth losing a band member and friend over. Pete Townshend, who had been the most vocal about the need for change, later reflected on the situation, acknowledging that the firing had been a rash decision made in the heat of the moment. "I regret the way we handled it," he admitted. "We didn't give Zak a chance to explain himself. We didn't give him the respect he deserved." The apology from the band was important, but perhaps even more significant was Zak's willingness to forgive and return to the fold. Despite the hurt he had experienced, Zak was open to moving past the tensions. He acknowledged that no one was perfect, and that the music they had created together was worth more than any personal issues. His return was a sign of his commitment to the band and to the music that had defined his life. Zak didn't see this as just a career opportunity. It was a chance to rebuild relationships and show the world that, despite the challenges they faced, The Who was still a family. As the band prepared for their future together, it was clear that the focus would be on moving forward. The Royal Albert Hall incident, while difficult at the time, had ultimately brought the band closer together. It had forced them to confront issues they had been avoiding for years, and in doing so, it allowed them to heal. The decision to rehire Zak Starkey was a symbolic gesture, one that not only reflected the band's commitment to each other, but also their dedication to their legacy. Zak had been an integral part of The Who for so long, and his return was a reminder of the importance of loyalty and unity in a band that had seen its fair share of ups and downs. For Zak, the return to the band was a bittersweet victory. The emotional toll of being let go had left scars, but the reconciliation process allowed him to heal and move forward with a renewed sense of purpose. He had always been the quiet one in the band, the one who preferred to stay out of the limelight, but his return was a testament to the fact that his contributions were valued and his place in The Who was secure. In the end, the reconciliation wasn't just about resolving a conflict. It was about acknowledging the importance of the bond they shared as a band. Pete Townshend, Roger Daltrey, and Zak Starkey all recognized that the magic of The Who was in their chemistry, their shared love for music, and their ability to create something larger than themselves. The personal issues that had divided them were now behind them, and they were ready to face the future together. The road ahead for The Who, with Zak back behind the drum kit, was full of possibilities. They had weathered many storms together, and the strength of their bond was evident in the way they had navigated this latest challenge. For the fans, it was a moment of relief and joy. The Who were back, and with Zak Starkey on drums, it felt like the band was whole again. They had faced adversity, but they had emerged stronger, with a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment to making music together for as long as they could. As the band looked ahead to their next chapter, they knew that they would continue to make music that resonated with their fans and stood the test of time. The reconciliation between Zak and The Who wasn't just about repairing a broken relationship. It was about honoring their shared history and creating a future that would carry the legacy of the band forward. It was a moment of redemption, a moment that proved that even the most difficult challenges could be overcome with honesty, communication, and a deep love for the music they created together.